beauty. Special delivery from a special bowler.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the PakPassion exclusive cricket review show called View from the Pavilion. I'm Cheyenne.
And I'm Sammy. Over the years, PakPassion has grown rapidly thanks to all you users, so we've decided to broaden our horizons and start a new weekly cricket recap show, right here on the biggest cricket forum on the net.
Yep, exactly. This week we're going to be talking about the recent contests between Pakistan and South Africa, England and New Zealand, as well as Mohammad Amir's lifetime ban and his chances of returning to the Pakistan team. Our first topic of discussion is, of course, the first one-day international between South Africa and Pakistan, which South Africa comprehensively won by 125 runs. There's lots of questions being asked about the Pakistan team management, particularly the selection. Now, I know you've got some strong views on that. Do you want to give us your thoughts?
Well, as usual, it's a case of the Pakistani batting not being able to withstand the pressure of a run chase. Any team that includes Misbah, Yunus Khan and Asad Shafiq in the middle order is going to struggle to maintain a run rate when chasing anything above 200. And I think that's been proven over the last couple of years. Yeah,
absolutely, I agree. Now, I did a preview of the series, and I did say that I didn't see any space for Asad Shafiq in the team, especially with Misbah and Yunus already there. So I was incredibly surprised to see him actually selected. It just looked like a very brittle middle order that couldn't chase any sort of big score. Now, the other thing I mentioned was the fact that, you know, I was expecting Umar Gul, Junaid Khan, and either Wahab or Irfan to play. So when I only saw two fast bowlers on the team sheet for a game in South Africa, I was shocked, really.
Misbah's always maintained that his bowlers are his strength, and that's one of the reasons why he always decides to bowl first, or quite often decides to bowl first. He sees it as an attacking move rather than a negative move. It works. That strategy works against weaker opposition with weaker batting lineups. So someone like perhaps on the last India tour, an out of form India could be skittled out for relatively low scores. You're not going to manage to do that against South Africa at home, and you have to plan accordingly. The best way of doing that is by putting a significant total on the board, as Pakistan did in the T20s.
Yeah, exactly. So the other point that I wanted to discuss was, of course, Umar Akmal, someone who has very, very mixed views from our forum members. What do you think about his non-selection in recent times?
It just shows the confused thinking that the Pakistani think tank has, really. Umar Akmal is the highest rated one-day batsman available to Pakistan, and to not select him and put in tried and tested failures in many respects. Yunus Khan hasn't scored significant amounts of runs for almost 5 years now, and Asad Shafiq is relatively untested as well. So to leave out a player with a decent one-day pedigree for those just shows the complete lack of understanding that team management have over setting totals in limited overs cricket.
Absolutely. Well, let's hope that they start thinking a bit straighter in the future games. Right, our next discussion point is the test match that just concluded between England and New Zealand, which ended with England batting almost 2 days to draw the game. Stephen Finn was the surprise batsman, really. He scored, I think, 53. It lasted nearly a day. There's been some question marks over pitch quality in recent times, particularly in the subcontinent. What do you make of the wicket that was prepared in New Zealand for this particular game?
I think it's obvious that the wicket was not conducive to pace bowling or to spin bowling, and those kind of pitches only serve to damage test cricket further. So I think the curators, there needs to be some kind of standardisation. The ICC needs to put in a plan to review pitches, the number of wickets that are taken on pitches, and assess them accordingly. They'll jump over anything that's, any pitch that results in a team that's 60 all out, but any team that's 500 for one, or any pitch that serves up a contest that's 500 for one, is given a pass. So there needs to be some kind of balance back towards bowlers.
Absolutely, it makes me wonder whether there's a problem with the ICC, or whether they have an interest in the game, because they They obviously like the games lasting 5 days, but they don't like them lasting 2 or 3 days. Obviously, there's a financial element to that, but it's not good to watch really. The other point I was going to come on to really was, in the recent series between New Zealand and South Africa, a lot of people questioned New Zealand's Test credentials after they were dismissed for 40 odd. Have they shown that they're actually quite capable in this Test match, having bowled England out so cheaply early on?
Well, there've been quite a few teams that have bowled England out in the first innings of a tour.
Yeah.
But after their one-day victory against South Africa, and then to go on to bowl England out, or even hold England to a draw, there were very few commentators or viewers that were expecting New Zealand to hold out for even a draw. So for them to manage that was a significant achievement. It'll be interesting to see how far they've come in the second test, where they'll come up against a more settled England side. By settled, I mean settled into the tour, and whether the likes of Southey and Bolt managed to pick up England wickets as easily as they did in the first innings.
Yeah, I also think that the wickets apparently that they're moving on to for the second and third Test matches should suit England a little bit more. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. What do you make of England's Ashes hope and looking into the future now with 10 Test matches this year? Do you think that that'll be as one-sided as many expect? David Lloyd actually said that he expects a 10-0 to England.
I don't think it'll be 10-0 to England, because I think Australia have enough bowlers to trouble England. In England, I mean, we've seen they've got a number of swing bowlers, Patterson, Stark, who are more than capable of taking clusters of wickets. They've both got enough pace to trouble England batsmen, and we've seen pace hurting the English top order before. The only place where Australia have struggled has been in the spin department in recent times, and they have got the Pakistani-born spinner, leg spinner, coming into the lineup. So maybe he can play a starring role in bringing the Ashes back to Australia.
That would be just desserts after what Peterson has done for England in Ashes contests. So I think that would be nice to see if a Pakistani does it for Australia.
That's it. And going back to the pitch issue as well, I think the test pitches that Pakistan and South Africa played on weren't particularly good pitches either. We were seeing the ball, we were seeing uneven bounce almost from day 2 of the test match, and it does lead to skewed contests. As I say, there's nothing that troubles a batsman more than uneven bounce, because it's not something that you can necessarily train for in the nets. So, and it seems to just be just fall under the ICC's radar, and it's not something that they're picking up. So pitches across the world definitely have to be assessed. One thing that we did remember was that the pitches in the UAE that Pakistan and England played on were actually very good pitches. They weren't necessarily conducive to spin bowling. They also had a lot in it for the likes of Broad, for Anderson and Gull as well. So maybe it's something that the ICC need to look at. I heard the soil was taken over from Karachi, so it's not necessarily the case that local pitches will behave in a certain way. They can be amended by curators should they desire.
Our final discussion point is about Mohammad Amir. Now we recently did a poll on the PakPassion homepage where we asked whether you'd want to see Mohammad Amir back in playing for Pakistan ever again, and 88% of the people that voted said yes. What do you make of that?
It's an interesting question, mainly because you'd have to wonder what the percentage would be if Pakistan were ranked the number 1 Test and ODI team in the world, and they had a collection of pace bowlers at their disposal. Sometimes it's just a case with fans. It's a case of needs must. They'd rather see their team win than.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really a case of compassion or any kind of love that they might have for Mohammad Amir. Quite often it just comes down to fans themselves wanting to see their team win. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I agree with you to a point in the sense that there is obviously that case of wanting to win. However, I do think there is some extra sympathy because of Mohammad Amir's age with a lot of people. Otherwise, I think they'd be clamouring for Mohammad Asif as well, who in my view, was a better Test bowler. He was absolutely fantastic. So, and everyone seems to be happy that he's never coming back. But with Mohammad Amir, it's it's getting back. So I do think the age does come into it a little bit. My personal opinion is that he's got a ban for 5 years. When that's over, he should start from as if his career started from scratch. So go back to domestic cricket, spend a year or so there. If he's good enough to get selected, then by all means, I think select him. But what I don't want is the day his ban ends, the day after the Pakistan squad's announced with Mohammad Amir's name in it, which I don't think is going to be fair to anyone, and it won't look right at all. So I think he needs to earn his place now, and you can't just expect to have it handed to him as soon as he comes back. One thing I don't really like is seeing him on TV and saying just the same old story that we have heard. We know what he's going to say, and it's like he's trying to gain a lot of sympathy, and I don't really like seeing him on TV quite so much. I'd rather he was keeping to himself and working on his game to try and be as good as he was when he does come back. What do you think?
Yeah, and that's the paradox with Mohammad Amir. He claims that he's sorry for what he did. He goes on to say that he pleaded guilty, but then parades himself on TV, keeping himself in the public eye. And the two or three ways that he's dealing with it are not consistent with what he says or how he says he feels. I think the best thing for Mohammad Amir to prove that he really is sorry would be to leave our TV screens for 5 years, and as you said, go and work hard in the net, work hard on his cricket, work hard on educating other youngsters on the perils of corruption, and really prove that he is sorry. Every time he appears on TV, it's part of a planned PR campaign rather than as part of any kind of rehabilitation program. That's the way it looks to me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hopefully we won't see too much more of him until another 3 or 4 years or whatever he's got left. I know he's trying to get his ban reduced. I don't see that happening. I just think he needs to wait the time and wait his turn really once he comes back. Right, well that's all from us for this week. Make sure you join us again in a couple of weeks' time for another discussion on the latest happenings in the cricket world.
And also make sure you send any questions, messages or suggestions you might have on our Facebook and Twitter page. Thanks a lot for your time and I hope to see you next time.